fiancé slept with his ex in our honeymoon suite the night before our wedding. So I turned our wedding into their public execution, leaving him at the altar crying, and her the center of unwanted attention, both broken and humiliated. When I met Toby 3 years ago, I thought I'd found my person. He was working temporarily in my city, and I swear he was perfect. Like the kind of guy who remembered how I took my coffee and would surprise me with flowers just because it was Tuesday. When he proposed and said we needed to move to his home state for his career, I didn't even hesitate. I gave up my job, my friends, my rent-controlled apartment, everything. Because when you find your soulmate, you make sacrifices, right? The thing was, loneliness hit me hard after the move. Toby traveled constantly for this permanent job, and I knew nobody. I'd spend nights crying in our empty apartment wondering if I'd made a mistake, but then he'd come home and hold me and I'd convince myself it was worth it. Meeting his mother should have sent me running. She looked at me with this fake smile and said things like, "How sweet that you gave up your little career," while constantly mentioning his ex, Jennifer. His dad was kind, but would barely speak because his wife would literally dismiss him anytime he tried to be nice to me. She had keys to our place and controlled everything, including which couples we could be friends with. I started feeling like I was losing myself, but I loved him so much I just kept making excuses. The wedding planning broke me down even more. Every choice I made got overruled. Her venue, her flowers, her guest list. She actually brought photos of Jennifer to my dress shopping to show what suited her son's taste. I went home and sobbed that night, but Toby was traveling again, so I just buried it. Then she insisted on inviting Jennifer to the wedding. I finally stood up for myself, but Toby said she was just a friend now, and his mom really wanted her there. So could I please not make this difficult? I caved like always while dying inside. When my best friends arrived last week, they immediately saw how broken I'd become. They planned a spa bachelorette weekend to help me feel better. But then my mother-in-law announced she was joining. Toby texted begging me to include her, saying she was excited to have a daughter-in-law, and I just felt so trapped that I said yes. That weekend was torture. She ruined everything while constantly talking about Jennifer and how she knew how to keep Toby satisfied. After drinking too much at dinner, she started going on about his needs and his appetite and how some women just understood what men required. Then she mentioned Jennifer was staying at the wedding hotel on the same floor as the bachelor party because Toby wanted her comfort. My heart started racing and I called him, but no answer. My mother-in-law saw my panic and actually said, "I'm not surprised you can't keep my son satisfied." That's when something in me snapped. My friends went full detective mode and found the bachelor party. The suite was full of strippers even though he'd promised me there wouldn't be any. His friends drunkenly said he went to catch up with an old friend. I knew before I even used my key to our honeymoon suite. There in the bed we were supposed to share for the first time as husband and wife were Toby and Jennifer. She had the audacity to say, "He told me you knew about our arrangement." No shame, nothing. Toby wasn't even sorry, just angry I wasn't at the spa. He said he loved us both in different ways and she understood parts of him I couldn't handle. His mother appeared like she'd been waiting and said she'd warned me I wasn't enough, but the universe gave me a gift. Back in my room, I found an email from my silent father-in-law. Screenshots of years of texts between Toby and his mom. Him saying he still loved Jennifer, but that I was wife material. His mother orchestrated everything. There was evidence of other women during every business trip. My father-in-law apologized for being a coward who let this happen. That's when my heartbreak transformed into pure rage. MIL planned this. I was supposed to be the respectable wife so Jennifer could be the mistress. Toby even insisted on no prenup because we trusted each other. I think they expected me to run, but everyone was already there. So I forwarded those screenshots to someone very special and put on my wedding dress. They wanted their perfect wedding, and they were about to get exactly what they deserve. The rehearsal dinner was in 6 hours. I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror, the wedding dress hanging behind me like a ghost. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That surprised me. After everything I'd discovered, after the rage had settled into something colder and more precise, my hands were perfectly steady. I picked up my phone and scrolled through the screenshots one more time. Years of deception laid out in neat little text bubbles. Toby telling his mother he needed to keep Jennifer happy during our engagement party. His mother responding that I was perfect for the public image, but Jennifer understood what he really needed. Business trips that weren't business trips. Hotel receipts. Credit card statements for jewelry I never received. My phone buzzed. A text from the AV technician at the venue confirming he'd received my email and would have everything ready for tomorrow. I'd paid him extra to ensure absolute discretion. He thought it was a surprise anniversary video. In a way, I suppose it was. I slipped into a simple black dress for the rehearsal. Nothing that would draw attention. Tonight wasn't about me. Tonight was about playing the part one last time. The heartbroken but forgiving bride who just wanted her perfect day. They'd taught me well how to pretend everything was fine. The venue was exactly what my mother-in-law had demanded. Ostentatious and cold. More about impressing people than celebrating love. I walked in to find her holding court with her society friends. No doubt spinning tales about how she'd saved her son from marrying beneath him the first time with Jennifer, and how grateful she was that I was so manageable. Toby rushed over when he saw me, his face a mask of concern. "Baby, I've been calling you all day. We need to talk about last night." I let him pull me aside, let him cup my face in his hands the way he used to when I thought he loved me. His cologne was different, probably something Jennifer picked out. "I know you're upset," he started, using that voice he reserved for when he thought I was being difficult. "But you have to understand, Jennifer and I have history. It doesn't mean I don't love you." I nodded, keeping my expression soft and wounded. "I just want tomorrow to be perfect." Relief flooded his features. He'd expected tears, accusations, maybe even a canceled wedding, but not this quiet acceptance. "You're amazing. You know that? Most women wouldn't be so understanding." Behind him, I caught sight of Jennifer entering with his mother. They were laughing about something, probably me. Jennifer wore a red dress that would have been inappropriate at any wedding event, but of course no one would dare tell her that, not when she had his mother's protection. The rehearsal itself was a blur of going through motions. Stand here, walk there, smile for the cameras. The officiant, a friend of his mother's, made jokes about how Toby was finally settling down, for real this time. I caught the knowing looks between him and Jennifer. Even the staff seemed to be in on the joke. My maid of honor kept shooting me worried glances, but I told my friends I needed to handle this my way. They thought I was in shock. They had no idea what was coming. At dinner, his mother seated Jennifer at the family table, right next to Toby. I was placed at the other end, bookended by distant relatives who spent the meal telling me how lucky I was to marry into such a prominent family. Toby's hand found Jennifer's under the table. They didn't even try to hide it. His father sat across from me, staring at his plate. When our eyes met, I saw shame there, but also something else. Relief, maybe. That someone finally knew the truth he'd been too weak to speak. "I'd like to make a toast," his mother announced, standing with her champagne glass. The room quieted. "To my son, who has always known what he wanted, even when the path wasn't clear, and to his bride, who understands that marriage is about compromise." The emphasis on that last word was like a knife. Around the table, people who knew the real story smirked. Those who didn't clinked glasses obliviously. I raised my own glass, smiling sweetly. "To compromise," I echoed. After dinner, I made my excuses about needing beauty sleep. Toby barely noticed me leave, too busy with Jennifer and his groomsmen planning the official after-party. His mother caught my arm at the door. "I'm glad we understand each other," she said, her grip tighter than necessary. "Tomorrow you'll become part of this family. It would be unfortunate if you forgot your place in it." I looked her dead in the eyes for the first time since I'd arrived. Something in my expression must have unsettled her because she actually took a step back. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "Tomorrow, everyone will know exactly where I stand." Back in my room, I opened my laptop and reviewed everything one more time. The presentation was perfect. 16 slides that told the real story of Toby and Jennifer and his mother's manipulation. Text messages, emails, photos from security cameras at hotels where he'd checked in under false names. The credit card statements showing thousands spent on Jennifer while I was told we needed to budget. My phone rang. My best friend from back home. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "You could just leave, take the evidence to a lawyer and get what you're owed." "It's not about money," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "It's about the truth. They made me feel crazy for 3 years. They gaslit me, manipulated me, made me small. Tomorrow I get to show everyone who they really are. And the job?" I smiled, the first real smile in days. "HR confirmed yesterday. I start in 2 weeks. Same position I left, but with a raise. My old boss said she'd been waiting for me to come to my senses." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness for a while. Tomorrow would change everything. The respectable wife they'd groomed me to be would disappear, and in her place would be someone they never saw coming. Someone who refused to be anyone's compromise. I thought about calling my parents, but they were already asleep. They'd been so happy when I got engaged, so proud that their daughter was marrying into such a good family. Tomorrow would break their hearts, but living this lie would have broken mine. The hotel room felt different now, not like a prison, but like a cocoon. Tomorrow I would emerge as something new, something harder maybe, but also something free. My wedding dress hung on the back of the door, pristine and white. His mother had picked it out, of course, said it was more appropriate than the one I'd chosen. Tomorrow it would serve a different purpose than she intended. Tomorrow it would be my armor. I set my alarm and climbed into bed. For the first time in months, I didn't cry myself to sleep. There was nothing left to mourn. The man I thought I loved never existed. The life I thought I was building was just an elaborate performance where everyone knew their lines except me. But tomorrow, I would flip the script. Tomorrow, I would show them all what happened when you pushed someone too far. Tomorrow, I would burn it all down with a smile on my face and slides on a screen. The last thought I had before sleep took me was of my father-in-law's email. His final line echoed in my mind. "I'm sorry I was too much of a coward to protect you from them, but maybe you're brave enough to protect yourself." Tomorrow, I would find out if he was right. The morning arrived with a clarity that felt almost surreal. I woke before my alarm, my mind already running through the sequence of events I'd set in motion. The AV technician had confirmed everything was ready. The presentation would play flawlessly when I gave the signal. 3 years of lies condensed into 16 devastating slides. My bridesmaids arrived early, buzzing with nervous energy. They knew something was wrong but respected my request for space. I let them fuss over my hair and makeup, playing the part of the nervous bride. The photographer captured every moment, unaware she was documenting the calm before the storm. My mother called while I was getting dressed. Her voice was bright with excitement, telling me how proud she was, how beautiful the venue looked. I almost broke then, hearing the joy in her voice. But I held steady. She'd understand eventually. They all would. The dress slipped on like a costume. His mother's choice, of course. Traditional and modest. Nothing like the flowing bohemian gown I'd originally picked. She'd called my choice inappropriate for our family's standing. I'd caved, like always. But today, this conservative dress would be perfect for what I had planned. No one could accuse me of looking anything less than the perfect bride. My phone buzzed with texts from Toby. "Can't wait to see you. Today's going to be perfect. I love you." Each message felt like another twist of the knife. I didn't respond. Let him wonder. The photographer wanted shots of me reading a letter from the groom. I'd forgotten about that tradition. My maid of honor handed me an envelope with my name in Toby's handwriting. Inside, generic words about forever and soulmates. Nothing about Jennifer, nothing about compromise, nothing real. I smiled for the camera and tucked the letter away. Evidence for later, perhaps. The drive to the venue passed in a blur. My bridesmaids chattered nervously, filling the silence with talk about the weather, the flowers, anything but what had happened last night. They'd been there. They'd seen him with Jennifer. But today we all pretended. One last time. The church was exactly what his mother wanted. Imposing stone walls, stained glass windows depicting judgment and redemption. How fitting. Guests were already arriving, filing into pews with programs that featured our engagement photo. The one where I looked so happy, so naive. His mother intercepted me at the bride's room entrance. She wore cream, of course. As close to white as she could get without causing an actual scandal. Her smile was triumphant. "You look appropriate," she said, adjusting my veil with possessive fingers. "I knew you'd make the right choice. About everything." I met her gaze steadily. "I've made my choices." Something in my tone made her pause, but then Toby's aunt called her away to handle some seating dispute. I watched her go, this woman who'd orchestrated my humiliation, who'd groomed me to be her son's respectable facade. Inside the bride's room, I found a gift box with a note. "For my beautiful bride, T." Inside, a diamond bracelet. The same style I'd seen in those credit card statements, purchased multiple times. How many women wore identical bracelets thinking they were special? I clasped it on. Let him see me wearing it during what came next. My father arrived to walk me down the aisle. He kissed my forehead, told me I looked beautiful, that he was proud. I held his arm tightly, memorizing the feeling. After today, would he still be proud? Would he understand why I had to do this? The music started. Bach's Air on the G-string, his mother's choice. I'd wanted something more modern, more us, but there was no us. There never had been. The doors opened. 300 guests rose to their feet. I saw my family on one side, his on the other. Jennifer sat in the third row, wearing a dress just modest enough to avoid complete scandal, but cut low enough to remind everyone what she offered. She smiled at me. Actually smiled. Toby waited at the altar, looking handsome in his tuxedo. His face lit up when he saw me. For a moment, I almost believed it was real, but then I caught him glancing at Jennifer, just for a second. That tiny look that confirmed everything. The walk felt endless. Each step carried me closer to the moment of truth. My father squeezed my hand before placing it in Toby's. The gesture felt like a transfer of ownership, from one man to another, but they didn't own me. Not anymore. The ceremony began with traditional words about love and commitment. Toby's mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, the picture of maternal joy. The photographer captured every moment. Good. Let there be a record. When it came time for the vows, the officiant turned to me first. This wasn't the traditional order, but I'd insisted. Told them I wanted to go first because I was so eager to express my love. They'd found it charming. I turned to face the congregation, microphone in hand. Toby looked confused but pleased. He thought I was going to be emotional, romantic. His mother nodded approvingly from the front row. Before I begin, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the church, I want to share something special, a presentation about our journey together. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't traditional. The AV technician positioned at the back caught my eye. I nodded. The screens on either side of the altar flickered to life. The first slide appeared, a photo of Toby and me from our early days, looking happy and in love. The congregation relaxed. Just a sweet tribute from a sentimental bride. Then the second slide appeared, a screenshot of text between Toby and his mother. Jennifer understands me in ways she never will. His mother's response, keep them both happy for now. After the wedding, things can be arranged. The church went silent. The slides continued, each one more damning than the last. Hotel receipts, credit card charges, photos from security cameras showing Toby entering hotels with different women. The presentation I'd spent all night perfecting played out in devastating clarity. Toby grabbed my arm. What are you doing? He hissed. I pulled away, keeping my voice steady as I spoke into the microphone. I'm showing everyone the truth. The truth about our relationship. The truth about your mother's plan to make me the respectable wife while Jennifer remained your mistress. The truth about all the others. The final slide appeared. A photo from last night. Toby and Jennifer in our honeymoon suite, taken by hotel security cameras I'd requested footage from after finding them. Time-stamped. Indisputable. The church erupted. Guests gasped. Whispered. Some even stood to leave. His mother's face had gone white, then red. She stood, shaking with rage. You ungrateful little... I'm not finished, I said calmly. I also want everyone to know that I've already accepted a job back in my hometown. I start in 2 weeks. The movers will be at our apartment tomorrow to pack my things. I turned to Toby, who stood frozen at the altar. The wedding is off, obviously. And since you insisted on no prenup because we trusted each other, I'll be taking half of everything. My lawyer will be in touch. I handed the microphone back to the stunned officiant and walked back down the aisle. 300 guests watched in shocked silence as I left. My family looked devastated. His looked murderous. But I kept walking, head high, shoulders back. Outside, my getaway car waited. My best friend had insisted on being ready, engine running. But as I reached for the door handle, Toby burst through the church doors. You can't do this, he shouted. You're humiliating me. I turned to face him one last time. No, Toby. You humiliated yourself. I just made sure everyone could see it. His mother appeared behind him, her carefully styled hair now disheveled. You'll regret this. I'll make sure you never what? I interrupted. Never get trapped in another manipulative relationship? Never let someone make me small again? You're right. I never will. Jennifer emerged next, her face a mask of calculated concern. She touched Toby's arm possessively. Let her go, baby. She was never right for us anyway. Us. There it was. The truth finally spoken aloud. I got in the car, and we drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched the three of them standing on the church steps. The perfect family they'd always wanted to be, finally exposed for what they were. My phone exploded with calls and texts. I turned it off. There would be time for explanations later. Time to comfort my parents, to thank my friends, to start rebuilding my life. But for now, I just needed to breathe. The plan had worked perfectly. The presentation, the timing, the delivery, everything had gone exactly as I'd imagined. So why did I feel so empty? We drove to the hotel where I'd booked a room under a fake name. My friends had packed my essentials the night before. Everything I needed to disappear for a few days while the dust settled. But I should have known they wouldn't let me go that easily. The first sign of trouble came 3 hours later. A knock on my hotel room door. Tentative at first, then insistent. I looked through the peephole to see Toby's father standing in the hallway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I opened the door cautiously. How did you find me? Your friend's license plate, he said quietly. I've gotten good at noticing details over the years. May I come in? Against my better judgment, I let him enter. He sat heavily in the chair by the window, looking exhausted. I'm proud of you, he said finally, for doing what I never could. You could have warned me sooner, I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. I know, I'm a coward, always have been, but I want to warn you now. They won't let this go. My wife, she has connections. Toby has his pride. And Jennifer, she's more dangerous than you know. What can they do? Everyone saw the truth. He shook his head slowly. The truth doesn't matter to people like them. They'll find a way to spin this. To make you the villain. They're probably already working on it. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A screenshot of a social media post already going viral. Bride goes crazy at wedding. Jealous meltdown caught on camera. The attached video showed only my presentation, edited to remove context, making me look unhinged. This is just the beginning, he said. They'll attack your reputation, your job prospects, everything. I've watched my wife destroy people for lesser slights. So what do? Fight back, but smarter than they expect. You have all the evidence. Use it. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. And don't trust anyone who suddenly wants to help you. They have more friends than you know. After he left, I sat in the gathering darkness, processing his warning. I'd won the battle at the church, but apparently the war was just beginning. The next few hours brought a cascade of problems. My email was flooded with messages. Most were supportive, but buried among them were threats, legal notices about defamation, warnings about sharing private communications. His mother had already mobilized her lawyers. Then came the call from my new job. HR sounded nervous. We've been receiving some concerning communications about you, she said carefully. Allegations about your stability, your trustworthiness. We may need to reconsider our offer. My heart sank. Of course. His mother's reach extended everywhere. I have documentation proving everything I showed at the wedding, I said. I'm sure you do. But we have to consider the company's reputation. Perhaps we should postpone your start date while this situation resolves. I hung up feeling sick. They were going to take everything from me, just like his father warned. A knock at the door interrupted my spiral. This time, I found Jennifer standing in the hallway. She looked different without his mother's protection. Smaller, more calculating. We need to talk, she said. We have nothing to talk about. Oh, but we do. You see, you've created a problem for all of us. And I'm here to offer a solution. Against every instinct, I let her in. She surveyed the room with predatory eyes before settling on the edge of the bed. Here's what's going to happen, she said. You're going to publicly apologize. Say you were emotional, that you misunderstood the situation. Toby and I will graciously forgive you. His mother will call off the lawyers. Your job will be secure. In exchange for what? You disappear. Completely. No contact with Toby. No claims on his assets. No further mention of what you think you saw. We'll even give you a generous settlement. Enough to start over somewhere far away. You want me to lie. To let you win. She laughed. A cold sound. I've already won. I've had him for years. You were just a temporary inconvenience. A role to be filled. But you've served your purpose. And now it's time to exit gracefully. And if I refuse, then we destroy you. Utterly. His mother has already started. Your job offer will disappear. Others will follow. Every potential employer will hear about the unstable woman who destroyed her own wedding. We'll sue you for defamation, emotional distress, whatever sticks. You'll spend years in court, drowning in legal fees. She stood, smoothing her dress. You have 24 hours to decide. But really, what choice do you have? You're alone. We have resources, connections, power. Be smart. After she left, I called my best friend, told her everything. She was furious, ready to fight, but I could hear the worry in her voice. She knew they could do exactly what they threatened. Maybe you should take the deal, she said reluctantly. Start fresh. Leave them behind. But something in me rebelled at the thought. They'd controlled me for 3 years, manipulated me, gaslit me, made me small. Was I really going to let them win now? I opened my laptop and started typing. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd show them what I'd learned from watching them. First, I created my own social media accounts. Posted my side of the story with all the evidence. The full screenshots, not edited. The complete timeline of manipulation. Tagged everyone who'd been at the wedding, ensuring maximum visibility. Then I reached out to a journalist friend from college. She'd always said she owed me a favor. Time to collect. She was intrigued by the story of a prominent family's secrets exposed at a society wedding. By morning, she'd have a feature ready to publish. But I saved the best for last. In those screenshots from his father, buried in the metadata, were details I hadn't noticed before. Evidence of Toby's mother's own affairs, her husband's knowledge and silent suffering, financial improprieties in the family business, a web of secrets that went far deeper than just Toby and Jennifer. I compiled it all into a neat package. Then I composed an email to his mother. You have 12 hours to call off your lawyers and ensure my job remains secure, or I release everything. Not just about Toby, about you, about the real reason you've stayed married, about where the money really comes from. Your choice. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within an hour. Not from his mother, but from Toby himself. He was at my hotel, demanding to be let up. The front desk called, concerned. I told them to send him away, but he wouldn't leave. Finally, I agreed to meet him in the lobby. Public. Witnesses. Safe. He looked terrible. Still in his wedding clothes, now rumpled. His perfect facade cracked. You've ruined everything, he said without preamble. I told the truth. Your version. You don't understand what you've done. The connections you've severed. The life you've thrown away. I understand perfectly. I threw away a life built on lies. He leaned forward, desperation creeping into his voice. It doesn't have to be this way. We can fix this. Come back. We'll go to counseling. I'll end things with Jennifer. Mother will accept you. We can be happy. You mean you'll hide Jennifer better? Your mother will pretend to accept me while plotting my eventual removal. And I'll go back to being small and manageable. You were happy before you knew. There it was. The core of his worldview. That ignorance was better than truth. That I should have been content with the performance. I was dying, I said quietly, slowly disappearing into the wife you all wanted me to be. Someone who didn't ask questions, didn't stand up for herself, didn't expect faithfulness or respect. That's not happiness. That's survival. His face hardened. Then you've chosen war. Mother won't back down. Neither will I. We'll make your life hell. You already did. The difference is, now everyone can see it. I stood to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make a point. Around us, people started to notice. Let go, I said calmly. Not until you listen. Security, I called out clearly. Hotel staff immediately moved toward us. Toby released me, his face flushing with embarrassment. Another crack in the perfect image. This isn't over, he said as security approached. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. Back in my room, I found missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters who'd seen the social media posts. Wedding guests wanting to know more. His mother's friends, some supportive, others threatening. Then, unexpectedly, a call from someone I did recognize. My old boss from the job I'd left for Toby. I've been following the situation, she said carefully. I want you to know that regardless of what happens with your new position, you have a place here if you want it. Same role, better pay. We've missed you. I nearly cried with relief. A lifeline, just when I needed it most. The next morning brought new developments. The journalist friend had published her piece. Society Wedding Explodes, a modern tale of deception and control. It was already trending. The comment section was a battlefield, but the evidence was undeniable. His mother's response was swift and vicious. A competing article painting me as a gold digger who'd planned this from the beginning. Quotes from anonymous sources claiming I'd been unstable throughout the relationship. Photos of me from the Bachelorette weekend, carefully cropped to make me look hammered and unhinged. But for every attack, supporters emerged. Other women who'd been in similar situations, people who'd seen through the family's facade, even some of their society friends privately messaging me with their own stories about his mother's manipulations. The war his father had predicted was in full swing. Each day brought new salvos. Legal threats countered with evidence releases. Social media battles with competing narratives. Jennifer tried to paint herself as another victim, claiming I'd known about their relationship all along and was just bitter about my place in the hierarchy. Through it all, I held on to the truth, the screenshots, the receipts, the timeline that showed exactly how I'd been groomed and gaslit. Every time they tried to rewrite history, I had evidence to counter it. The breaking point came a week later. His mother, frustrated by her inability to silence me through legal threats or social pressure, made a critical error. She approached my parents. My mother's voice on the phone was broken. "Sweetheart, we need to talk. That woman came to our house. She told us things about you, about your mental health. She had documents." My blood ran cold. What kind of documents? Medical records from a psychiatrist you supposedly saw. Diagnoses of paranoia, delusions. She said you've been off your medication. I'd never seen a psychiatrist in my life, but somehow his mother had fabricated an entire medical history. The documents would look real enough to convince my parents, to plant doubt in anyone who saw them. "Mom, I know, honey. Your father and I know you." But she was so convincing. She cried, said she just wanted to help you, said Toby still loved you despite your illness. The manipulation was masterful. By approaching my parents directly, she'd bypassed me entirely. Now they'd have to choose between believing their daughter or the sobbing mother-in-law with official-looking papers. I hung up and immediately called my journalist friend. "They're escalating. Fake medical records. Can you help?" She was already investigating. "The psychiatrist they're claiming you saw? He lost his license 5 years ago, but his signature still looks legitimate on documents. I'm tracking down how they got these forgeries." While she worked that angle, I dealt with another crisis. My bank called to inform me that someone had attempted to access my accounts. Multiple fraud alerts. Credit cards I'd never opened maxed out in my name. His mother's financial connections were showing their teeth. I spent hours on the phone with fraud departments, freezing accounts, filing reports. Each representative was sympathetic but warned it could take months to resolve. Months where my credit would be destroyed, my finances in chaos. My best friend arrived at the hotel that evening with supplies and reinforcements. "You're not fighting this alone anymore," she declared, wheeling in suitcases. "I'm staying until this is over." She'd brought 2 other friends from back home, women who'd known me before Toby, who'd watched my transformation with worry, but hadn't known how to help. Now they formed a protective circle, screening calls, managing social media, coordinating responses. The next attack came from an unexpected direction. Jennifer's parents, wealthy in their own right, issued a statement. Their daughter had been victimized by a vindictive woman who couldn't accept that love cannot be controlled. They were considering their own legal action for the emotional distress I'd caused their family. The absurdity of it might have been funny if it wasn't so calculated. 3 powerful families now aligned against me, each adding their own resources to the campaign. But I'd learned something important from watching them operate. They were used to people folding under pressure. They'd never faced someone with nothing left to lose. I recorded a video. Simple, direct, sitting in my hotel room with no makeup, no pretense. I told my story from the beginning. The love bombing, the isolation, the slow erosion of my identity, the discovery of the affair, the presentation at the wedding, and now, the retaliation. "They want me to disappear," I said to the camera, "to apologize for telling the truth, to let them rewrite history, but I won't. Because somewhere out there is another woman being told she's crazy for questioning her partner, being made small by someone who claims to love her. If my story helps even one person recognize the signs, then whatever they do to me is worth it." The video went viral within hours. Not just views, but responses. Hundreds, then thousands of women sharing their own stories. "Believe Your Gut" became a trending hashtag. The narrative his mother had tried to control spun wildly out of her reach. Toby's company, which had initially stood by him, started receiving pressure from consumers. How could they employ someone who conducted business trips that were covers for affairs, who used company credit cards for personal expenses? The evidence I'd shown at the wedding was being scrutinized by more than just wedding guests now. His mother made another move. She contacted my old landlord from the rent-controlled apartment I'd given up. Suddenly, I was being sued for damages to a property I'd left in perfect condition 3 years ago. The landlord, who'd been lovely when I lived there, now claimed thousands in repairs. "She got to him," my friend said, reading the legal notice. "Probably offered to cover his losses and then some." The pattern was clear. Anyone who'd ever had a connection to me was being contacted, pressured, potentially bribed. They were trying to create a web of legal troubles that would drain my resources and energy. But their scorched earth approach was creating unexpected allies. Toby's father reached out again, this time with more than warnings. He provided access to family financial records that showed a pattern of payoffs, bribes, and questionable transactions spanning years. His wife had been cleaning up Toby's messes since high school. "I'm done being complicit," he said over the phone. "I've already filed for divorce. After what they're doing to you, I finally found my courage." The journalist published a follow-up article with the financial records. The headline read, "How Far Will They Go? The Price of Silence in High Society." It detailed not just my story, but a pattern of behavior. Other women came forward, anonymously sharing their experiences with Toby during his business trips. Hotel staff who'd been paid to keep quiet. Jennifer's own friends who admitted they'd known about the affair for years. Toby's company couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. He was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. His mother's charity boards began distancing themselves. The social standing they'd worked so hard to protect was crumbling. Desperation made them reckless. I woke one morning to find my hotel room door slightly ajar. Nothing was missing, but things had been moved. My laptop was open, though I'd closed it the night before. Security footage showed a man in a maintenance uniform that no one recognized. The police took it seriously, especially when the hotel confirmed no maintenance was scheduled. They increased patrols, but we all knew who was behind it. The message was clear: we can get to you anywhere. My friends insisted on changing hotels, registering under one of their names. We moved every few days, an exhausting shell game that kept us one step ahead. The stress was wearing on all of us, but they refused to leave me. Then Jennifer overplayed her hand. She gave an exclusive interview to a lifestyle magazine, painting herself as the real victim. She claimed I'd known about their relationship from the beginning, that I'd agreed to the arrangement for financial security. She even suggested I'd been having my own affairs. The lies were so blatant, so easily disproven by the evidence, that public opinion shifted decisively. The magazine faced backlash for not fact-checking. Jennifer's parents quietly withdrew their legal threats. His mother made one last desperate attempt. She showed up at my parents' house again, this time with Toby. He looked haggard, diminished. They begged my parents to intervene, to convince me to stop destroying their lives. My father, quiet like Toby's had been, finally spoke up. He told them to leave and never come back, that his daughter had shown more strength and integrity than their entire family combined. My mother added that if they contacted them again, they'd be the ones calling lawyers. The tide had turned, but victory felt hollow. I'd won the war they'd forced on me, but at such a cost. My life had been turned inside out, my privacy destroyed, my future uncertain. A month after the wedding that wasn't, I sat in a coffee shop in my hometown. My old boss had been true to her word. I'd started back at my job, better position, better pay. My coworkers had welcomed me with quiet support, no questions asked. I was rebuilding, slowly. The legal issues were resolving one by one as his mother's influence waned. The fraud on my accounts was being reversed. The fake medical records had been exposed as forgeries. Even the vindictive landlord had withdrawn his suit after the journalist started investigating him. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. "This is Ben. I was at your wedding. I work with Toby. I wanted you to know he was fired yesterday. The investigation found extensive misuse of company resources. Jennifer left him last week when the money dried up. His mother's charity is under investigation for financial irregularities. You did what none of us had the courage to do. Thank you." I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. Not satisfaction exactly, but a kind of peace. They'd destroyed themselves with their own weapons. Every attack they'd launched had revealed more of their true nature. Every lie they'd told had unraveled their carefully constructed world.